Hello everybody and welcome back to Sai Knows the Score, where again I apologise for the later upload. Life is getting in the way right now with work, houses, all of the stuff going on. So yeah, I do apologise. We will get back on track shortly, I absolutely promise. But please do slap a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and pop in your predictions down below. Let's get straight into it then for Game Week 24, where we kick things off at the Amex between Brighton and Everton. So Brighton find themselves stuck with inconsistency, don't they, where it has been difficult at times to predict how they're actually going to do each game. So yeah, look, one thing is for sure, it's very rare that they do lose at home, with only one defeat at the Amex so far this season against the in-form Aston Villa. So surely you think Brighton will draw for this one? I mean, in total, they have actually won 5 and drawn 5 at home, where Everton tend to be stronger away from home, as even their fans say, you know, they look to have a proper game plan for away matches, where they become more compact, which is pretty evident, actually. In the 11 away matches they've had so far, they've only conceded 10, and they've only scored 10. So the very tight games when Everton tend to go away from home. So Everton against Leeds were a little fortunate, you know, not to be 2-0 down at home, but they did look better in the second half. Maybe say that they deserved a draw. I think on the balance of the whole game, chances wise, maybe Leeds deserved it, edged it, but you can argue that a point was probably deserved in the end as well for Everton. So yeah, look, given everything I've said, I feel like there's not going to be more than 2 goals here. I can see it's been tight, either 1-0 either way. But I'm going to go right down the middle and I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw, because that feels like the most likely outcome here. Moving on to my team, Leeds United versus the Gunners, Arsenal. And as mentioned, Leeds will have been kicking themselves a little bit at half-time at the Hill Dickey, where we should have been another goal in front, and I knew it was going to come back to haunt us. It was just always going to happen. They're always going to put the big guns on at the Everton, and that's exactly what they did. And yeah, they get the atmosphere going a little bit more there. And the first half, you could see the Everton fans were getting on Everton's the players' backs, and it was looking like it was only going to go one way at one point, wasn't it? Now, with this game, we tend to be the better team, or we perform better in the first half of matches so far. And of course, you feel the atmosphere at Ellen Road could be strong for this one. But whether Leeds can grab a goal or not is a different story in that first half, to then try and make it a nervy second half for Arsenal fans. So speaking of Arsenal, Man City are on their tails yet again. Only 4 points behind, and Man City have made a few more signs this window to help close the gap and prevent Arsenal from winning a title yet again. Now, the City ground has been a torrid place for Arsenal since they came back to the Prem, where they've actually only won 1 out of the 5 games there in all competition. So, perhaps it was no surprise to see another 0-0. Will this be the kick up the bum for Arsenal, or will they falter again against another newly promoted team away from home, where Sunderland did a good job on them earlier on in the campaign? So yeah, I look more at the head-to-head. Leeds haven't beaten Arsenal now since 2003, and it's unlikely that voodoo will break now, where at best it could be a draw. I mean, at absolute best. Surely though, Arsenal will edge this, where they are top of the away table, but they haven't scored with many goals away from home, with only 14 goals to their name and conceded 9. So similar to the Brighton-Everton game, it could be relatively low scoring. I just don't see Leeds scoring here, even at Ellen Road, so I'm thinking a tight 1-0, probably from a set piece as well, probably Gabriel, as that tends to be the case at the moment for Arsenal. So yeah, 1-0 Arsenal to be the final score for that one. Wolves versus Bournemouth, and Wolves' mini unbeaten run of 5 games came to an end at the Etihad, where they were a bit unlucky, weren't they really, to have lost, and I thought a draw was perhaps the fairest result here. It looks like Strand Larsen is on the move, up to 50 million for Palace, so a very good deal for Wolves, where he's only scored 1 goal this season. I think it's 1 goal, is it, this season, the Prem? And that was from the penalty spot, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So Bournemouth, though, got a thoroughly deserved win against Liverpool, which ended their unbeaten run of 13. So it certainly was unlucky for Liverpool, wasn't it? Now, Bournemouth at home, versus Bournemouth away are like two completely different teams where they get punished for their high intensity attacking football more away from the vitality, which could play into Wolves' hands here with them being more of a counter-pressing side. On the balance, it does feel again like a draw and can see a more entertaining fixture here than the ones mentioned thus far. So I'm actually going to go with an entertaining 2-2 draw. Chelsea versus West Ham, and Liam Rosenior has had a solid start result-wise so far, with their best performance coming away at Napoli only the other day in the Champions League. So maybe he's getting his style and philosophy across to the team now. Shockingly, Chelsea are 13th in the home table. So Rosenior will be looking to improve this as soon as possible, because if their away form remains the same while they improve their results at home, then they could be nailed on for a Champions League position. Of course, that does mean no more red cards, Chelsea. That's also a contribution as to why they're probably as low as they are in the home table. Now, West Ham, are they going to survive? They were on the verge of arguably being dead and buried, especially after that Nottingham Forest defeat at home. But they've now won back-to-back games in the Prem, which could really open up the relegation battle, with even Palace, Spurs still having to look over their shoulders as well now. I can't believe people are calling the Prem boring this year too. There's just so much to play for, isn't there, across the whole league. Yeah, it's not been the most entertaining in terms of high-scoring games, but look at how many shocks there have been each week, and it's making it even more difficult to predict, which is a really great thing. So look, anyway, back to this game. On paper, this should be Chelsea, but West Ham are stronger away from home than at home, as are Chelsea. So they both are technically away sides. My brain and statistics lean towards a draw, but I'm going to go with my gut. I think Chelsea, in my opinion, will get over the line here, where they got battered by Brentford a little bit at home, yet ended up winning 2-0. I think the Champions League fixture will contribute a little bit in terms of fatigue, because it was obviously a bit of a feisty, end-to-end kind of fixture at Napoli. So I'm going to edge this 2-1 to the home side. That's the final result for that one. Liverpool versus Newcastle. And yes, Liverpool deservedly lost away at Bournemouth, as we established earlier, but have just come back with a 6-0 win at Anfield against Qarabag to cement their place in the last 16 of the Champions League. So when they're on it, they still have it, but they just need to show it more frequently, which has been their struggle, which is an obvious statement, but that's just what it is. So will we see Salah of old for the remaining games of the season? I mean, that, of course, will certainly help them get into a Champions League spot if he does. Newcastle with a good performance against the European champions PSG, where they could have nicked it late on. That Harvey Barnes had a couple of chances, didn't he, in that game? He could have nicked it, and that would have got them into the top 8 and through to the last 16. But now they've got to have an additional 2 fixtures, which could impact their Premier League games as well. Now, we know Newcastle have struggled away at home, especially at times this season, and they've not beaten Liverpool at Anfield since 1995, so we're going back 31 years almost now, and that was in the League Cup, and it was 1994 the last time they beat them at Anfield in the Prem. So given their struggles away from home this season, it's difficult not to see Liverpool win here. At best, Newcastle scrape a draw as it did against PSG, but feel this will be a relatively comfortable 2-0 win for Liverpool, who may have a spring in their step yet again after with confidence of scoring 6 goals at Anfield. So look out for that. So yeah, 2-0 to be the final score for Liverpool. Aston Villa versus Brentford, and Villa overturned a 2-goal deficit to win at Villa Park against Red Bull Salzburg, and are continuing to fight in the Prem, where they're still only within 4 points of Arsenal. I still think their squad depth will be the difference maker, where I envision them finishing 8-10 points, probably away from the league winners, probably minimum of that now, come the end of the season. But they are still giving it a bloody good go, aren't they? Yes. Brentford were tearing up too, and they went from, what was it, 14th, 15th in the league, and they've zoomed all the way up, haven't they? And they were tearing it up, but now have found themselves with back-to-back defeats in the league, where they were unlucky against Chelsea and slightly unlucky against Forest, I suppose, performance-wise, that is. It just shows that they've suddenly struggled in front of goal. Not going to really say much more about this game. I don't think there really is. I feel Brentford could be the better performers between these two teams, but I feel Villa will get over the line and win, as they have done on a few occasions this season where they've not been the better team, but they have got the win under their belt. So, yes, I'm going to go 2-1 to be the final score to Aston Villa here. Manchester United versus Fulham, and it's these types of games now where we'll truly begin to see what we can expect from Michael Carrick and this Man United team. As they, if we're being honest, do generally get up for derby games and bigger matches, shall we say. Is Arsenal still classed as a bit of a rival for them these days? I mean, I'll let you decide that, Man United Arsenal fans. You can tell me in the comment section below. But yeah, it'll be a good test for them here against an in-form Fulham side who are doing better than expected themselves. Now, Fulham, with a solid win against a tricky Brighton team, can make it difficult here once again at Old Trafford. Oscar Bob is a very exciting signing for them, and it will be interesting to see how he develops under Marco Silva. Expect a few boos for him from the Man United fans if he's to make an appearance. I just feel that Man United tails are up at the moment, and they've got players back, haven't they, and they're performing well with the manager bounce, so I feel like it's going to be 2 goals and a clean sheet here for Manchester United. Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace, and some strong results recently for Forest where they have beaten West Ham to create a bigger gap, drew against Arsenal, which is solid, and had a really great win at one of the most difficult grounds to get a result at this season at the Gtech Stadium, aka Brentford. So fair play to the turnaround here for Forest and Sean Dyche. They still find themselves 5 points clear of safety and need this form to continue if they're to secure their Premier League status. Otherwise, we could, and look, it's a stretch, but we could find a Birmingham situation where they could win the Europa League and be in the Champions League, yet find themselves in the Championship. And I mean, that would be incredible. And I really want to see, nothing against Forest, it would just be amazing to see one that's just a Championship team in the Champions League. So yeah, please win the league. Please win the Champions League and get relegated. But no, in all seriousness, I feel like this is a huge game here where, Forest win would see them go level on points with Palace. But of course, Palace could be signing Strand Larson, although there are mixed reports on whether they could pull the plug or not right now, so I feel they will get him, but of course he won't be available for this fixture by the looks of it because of how late it is for the registration. So they haven't won now in the league since the 7th of December and are quickly getting dragged into that relegation battle, with Glasgow's very near future in doubt too. We know he's leaving the summer, could even be leaving early. We'll see how we go on there. So yeah, this is a game that could pull Palace further into the relegation battle, so this could be a really tight game when both teams could be sceptical to throw everything on the line. So I'm going to go with a tight 1-0 win to Forest, purely based on form, arguments for a 0-0 or a 1-1. But yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 to Forest for the final score for that one. Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester City. And Thomas Frank is still fighting and hanging on, which must surely be due to their performances in the Champions League, where they finished 4th, I believe, in the table there. Now, as we all know, Spurs are dreadful at home. However, they are generally Man City's bogey team and usually perform better when they're the ones counter-pressing, as opposed to being the aggressors with the lion's share of possession. City might be thinking Arsenal could slip up at Ellen Road, where a win here could put them within touching distance of top spot. Now, their performances have been pretty woeful recently, and they did look better though, didn't they, the other day against Galatasaray, so could this get them going again? I'm looking at the head-to-head stats here, and these teams, and yeah, Spurs generally do better at the Etihad and City do well at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so both do better against each other away from home, which is a little interesting fact there for yourselves. So on that basis, I'm going to go with a narrow 2-1 win to Manchester City and keep their title hopes going. Last but not least, we have 2 newly promoted teams in Sunderland versus Burnley. And yes, as mentioned, it's the battle of the newly promoted teams. However, Sunderland are thriving, whereas Burnley really need to start picking up some wins if they are to have a chance of staying up. Now, in the reverse fixture, Burnley did beat Sunderland. That was a long time ago now. I believe that was like the second or third game of the season. So, yes, Sunderland will be looking to get back on track after perhaps what could be considered a disappointing 3-1 defeat against the Hammers. Sunderland are now the only team yet to taste defeat at home this season, thanks to Cunha's late goal for Man United at the Emirates. So, what a fortress this Stadium of Light has become. Burnley have had some great points against the likes of Spurs, Man United and Liverpool. They currently sit on 5 points away from home, and their home form isn't that much better. So they are getting desperate now for a win, where the final tells 10 points away from 17th place Forest, and that's with a massively inferior goal difference too. So, all in all, how can you look beyond Sunderland here? Given their home form, haven't lost at home all season, and the only team not to lose at home all season. So, even a draw for Burnley looks far-fetched, and I can only see the one winner here. So, a reasonably comfortable 2-0 win on the cards for Sunderland. And that is the final score to end game week number 24. Again, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, slap a like on the video, put your predictions and any comments below. I'm always around for a little bit of a debate, or if you've got any opinions, if it's anything that you think, not sure about what you've said there, don't agree with it, let's have a great debate about it. I like to have these types of things about football with people, so get your comments below. And until then, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great week and weekend, everyone. Until that one, bye for now.